I assume that you have downloaded Visual Studio already from visualstudio.com and that you have installed it on your machine. So now let's check the installation. Let's go to the taskbar and let's search here for Visual. This brings up the Visual Studio installer. Let's start this application. As you can see, I have installed Visual Studio Community 2022 and I have here version 17.1. Now let's click here on the Modify button to check the installation. When I scroll down here, you can see the two workloads .NET Desktop Development and Universal Windows Platform Development. These two are required to create WinUI applications with .NET and C#. So ensure that you have both selected. On the right side, you find installation details for the selected workloads. When you expand here the .NET Desktop Development workload and when you scroll down, you can see here the Windows App SDK C# templates. You need to ensure that these are selected, else you won't have the project templates for WinUI projects. If something is missing, you can check it and you can modify here your existing Visual Studio installation. Now let's close the Visual Studio installer, so I have everything on my machine. Let me now also show you where you can find installation instructions in the Microsoft documentation. So let's bring up a browser. As you can see, I'm here on docs.microsoft.com. When you scroll down in this page, you can see here the product directory and there is a section called Windows. Let's click on Windows and in this section you'll find here another section for application developers. Let's navigate to this one. When you are here, you'll find here different sections, for example, what is the Windows App SDK and a quick start to create your first WinUI 3 project. I click on this quick start and now you are here in the documentation Windows Apps Desktop. You can use the navigation here on the left side where you find links to different articles. Here is an article that is called Install Tools for the Windows App SDK. Let's click on this one. In this article, you find installation instructions. First, you need to install Visual Studio. As you can see, 2022 is recommended, but you could also use 2019. Then you find here the required workloads. Note that here is also a workload for desktop development with C++. You don't need this one if you want to build WinUI applications with .NET and C#. But if you want to create WinUI applications with C++, you need this workload in addition. Now when I scroll down further, you find here instructions to get the Visual Studio project and item templates. As you can see, for Visual Studio 2022 version 17.1 or later, you don't have to do anything in addition. For older versions of Visual Studio, you find here instructions how to install the project templates. As I have here 17.1 and as all the required workloads and the Windows App SDK C# templates are installed, we can create a new WinUI project in the next clip. In this demonstration, you will create and explore a WinUI project. Let's switch to Visual Studio. Here in Visual Studio, let's go to the File menu and let's select here New Project. As you can see, I have set here the filter already to C#. Under All Project Types, you find here also WinUI if you have installed the Windows App SDK C# templates. Let's select this project type so that you can see here only the WinUI project templates. There is a template to create a blank desktop application. It is called packaged because it creates also a so-called MSIX package. MSIX is a packaging format that is recommended to deploy your application to Windows 10 or Windows 11. It allows a clean installation and uninstallation of applications. Beside this project template, there is one to create a class library that you can use to build WinUI controls. Then there is another project template that is also called blank application. It will also create a blank WinUI application that gets packaged in an MSIX package. This template will create two projects in your solution. One project with a WinUI application and another project to package your application as an MSIX package. The other blank app template creates just a single project in your solution. That project has everything for your application and also everything to package it as an MSIX package. This is the more modern template. So let's select this one and let's click on Next. I call the project wiredbraincoffee.customers app. Let's click the Create button to create it. Now let's go to the Solution Explorer. Here in the Solution Explorer, you find a main Windows SAML file and a main Windows SAML CS file. The C# file is the so-called code behind file. These two files together define the main window of your application. Then you have also here an app SAML file and a corresponding code behind file. These two files define the application object of your WinUI application. Now let's open the main Windows SAML file and let's take a look at its content. Here you can see a window element and a stack panel, which is a layout panel, and a button. The button has the content "Click me." Then it has a name that allows you to access this button from the code behind file, and it has also installed an event handler for the click event. This event handler is also defined in the code behind file. So let's go back to the Solution Explorer. Let's open here the code behind file. When you scroll down, you can see it contains a main window class that inherits from window. Here is this myButtonClick event handler, and you can see the button is accessed with this name. Here the content property is set to clicked. So when you click the button, it will have this text. Now let's go again to the Solution Explorer and let's open here the code behind file of the application object. When you scroll down, you can see here the onLaunched method. Here the main window is created and activated. Now let's see this in action and let's run the application. To do this, you need to ensure that you have selected here the right target for your machine, and then you can run the WinUI application. As you can see, the main window comes up and here is this button with the text "Click me." When you click on it, the text is changed to clicked. Now let's stop it again and let's go back to the Solution Explorer. Beside these SAML files with code behind files, you find a few more files in this project. You find here the app manifest file, which is for Win32 applications. Usually, you don't have to do anything in that file. Then there is the package appx manifest file, which is an XML file that defines the information to create the MSIX package. When you run your WinUI application with Visual Studio, an MSIX package is created automatically. That package is deployed to your Windows machine and the application is started. Now if you want to distribute your application to other Windows computers or to the Microsoft Store, you have to explicitly create an MSIX package. To do this, you right-click the project in the Solution Explorer and you select from the context menu Package and Publish. If you don't see this menu item, please unload your project and reload it again with the context menu. There was a caching issue with this menu item in Visual Studio. Now here you find the option to create app packages. This opens up a dialog that asks you how will you distribute this application. You can either use the Microsoft Store or sideloading. Sideloading allows you to install the application directly on a Windows PC, or you can also provide it with a URL or with a UNC path. You can click here on what is site loading to learn more about how you can distribute your application without using the Microsoft Store. Now let's close this dialog again. Now you learned about the different files of the WinUI project. In the next clip, I will show you how you can work with the SAML document of the main window and with the code behind file. In this demonstration you will learn how to work with SAML and with the code behind file. Let's switch to Visual Studio. Let's open here the main window SAML file of our customer's application. I remove here the stack panel and the button that are by default in this window. Now let's go back to the Solution Explorer and let's open the code behind file of the main window. First, let's press here Ctrl- on the usings to remove the unnecessary usings from this file. As you can see, here is a comment that points to the documentation to learn more about WinUI. I also remove this comment. Next, let's also remove here this comment on the window class. Now, from the code behind file, I also remove here the click event handler for the button. Now you can run the application and you will see just an empty window. But instead of running the application, let me show you how to use the SAML editor. So let's just create another button here in this window. First, I create here a grid, which is a layout panel in WinUI. Usually, you use this as the root panel for your user interface. You will learn more about the grid later in this course. Now let's define in this grid a button with the text Add Customer. Instead of specifying this text inside of the button element, you can also just set the button's content property. Now let's run the application and you should see this button. As you can see, it is placed here on the left side. Now important to mention is, for WinUI you don't have a visual designer in Visual Studio. But you can edit SAML while the application is running. So here, let's move the application to the left side of my screen and let's put Visual Studio to the right side. Now on the button, you can set different properties. You can set, for example, the background property to red and you see now the button is red. I will remove this again later. I just do it here so that you can see it a bit better in this dark user interface. By the way, the user interface is dark because my Windows 11 theme is the dark theme. If you are using the light theme, you will see the application with a light user interface. Now let's set on this button the vertical alignment property. You can set it to bottom and you see now the button is at the bottom. Let's set it in this